Sup guys, welcome back to the series. And in the last videos I have set up the inventory items. So I'm going to do a quick rewind here. So you can go up over here and approach the item. You'll have this little 3D widget to display that you're close to a pickable item, and you can get close to it and press F to pick it up. And we have all this replicated into the clients, and it's all working. And I said in the last video that we are going to work on the inventory widget part, so like the actual interface. And you can see that I have now created a new folder inside our data called textures, and I have a little inventory texture over here. So yeah, as you can see, if you remember or play the Stalker games, this is directly ripped from the Stalker inventory. Obviously I cannot release this when I release the game, but I'm going to use this as a template to work on the inventory. And this is basically the inventory display of Stalker. So you have over here your group, your name, your reputation, and the rank inside your your faction. And over here are going to be all the items, and we're going to work with a grid where you're going to display all the items, and then there's going to be stackable items and items that cannot be stacked. And we already have that set up over here in our item details. So if I go into class defaults, and by the way, I'm on my test item that I created in the last video. It's over the blueprints items, and it's a child of the master item, and it's just called test item. And in the last video I didn't even go inside, and I need to go into the class defaults. So go into default details, and now you have all the information that you need to put up. So the name, I'm going to put a test item. The description, I'm just going to say a test item for testing. Doesn't make any sense, but okay. The thumbnail, I'm just going to pick a random texture. Normally you would have this to be of a resolution of the size of your slot, but I'm just going to pick one that is squared and a little bit big. I'm not sure. Let me just I'm gonna pick with this one, which is 128 by 128. The type, I'm going to say it's miscellaneous. I'm going to say it's a consumable, and because it's a consumable, I'm going to be able to stack it. And then the item mesh is going to be whatever is the mesh that I'm using over in the items, which is going to be a generic HMD. So I'm just going to find it, then go into the class defaults again and just press a little arrow here to assign it. The animation blend space, I'm not going to add one because this is going to be a consumable. There won't be an animation. If you have like an animation like when you actually use it, you can add a parameter for an animation, so when you use the item you play that animation, so like a drinking soda or whatever, wherever is the item context of that animation. But I'm not going to use that, so I'm just going to leave this animation blend space with none, because I'm not going to want a special special animation for this. And the class, I'm going to test, not test, but pick the test item, and basically it's itself. We always want to pick the itself over here on the class. It's just for reference, if we drop the item into the ground, we have the class for us to spawn the test item again. And that's basically it. So now let's go over. I'm just going to close this. I'm going to close the test item as well, and I'm going to close the inventory texture, and I'm just going to go over our, let me go ahead, get into the content, and I'm going to go into data, and I'm going to create, actually no, I'm going to go into widgets. I'm going to create a new user interface. It's going to be WB_inventory, and I'm going to pick that up or open that up, and I'm not going to do anything to it just yet. Actually I might do. I'm just going to get a border, not a border, but I'm going to pick an overlay. I like to work with overlays when I'm doing widgets because it allows me to put things as I want them to. And I'm just going to anchor this to the entire screen and set the offsets to 0 so it covers the entire screen. And I'm just going to get a border, attach it to it, then say that I want this border to fill the screen as well. I'm just going to go into the brush, and I'm going to choose my inventory texture that I imported, and there you go, that's it. And now another thing that I'm going to want, it's another widget blueprint. I'm going to call it WB_item slot, and this is going to be the individual items that are going to appear over here in our grid. And I'm going to, right now I'm just going to put on a size box. Actually, I'm just going to do and grab an image. No, I actually need an overlay. Sorry, I'm going to need an overlay because I'm going to want to put on an image. This image is going to be the size that we want to, so I'm going to say 128, 128. And you can actually see how this looks. If you go over here into the palette over there on the inventory and search for the item slot, and you can drag this up into the overlay, and you can see the size. So as you can see, the grid slots are way smaller. So probably I'm going to make this 64 by 64. So let's change the size of the image to 64 by 64. And this should be the size that we need. So let's grab that. You can see that now the size is approximately the same size of our grid. So we're going to leave it as that. And now we're actually going to need to add a text. This text is going to be is going to tell us the number of items inside the slot. So if you have a stackable item, for example a drink, we're going to want to show a number here of how many drinks there are on that slot. And let's go over here, set up the size to be a lot smaller, like 12. And we're going to want this to display the number of items. So default is going to be 1. And we're going to want this to be, we're going to have to work over there on the padding. So over there to the right, I'm going to say 20. Not the right, the left, that's what I want. 20 is too little, let's try 40. Now let's try on the top another 40. I said 40, there you go. I'm just going to set the tint to black so I can see the text correctly. And I'm going to set the typeface to be light because I like this font. And that's it, that's all we need. And later on we're going to bind this, but I'm not going to touch that just yet. And over in our inventory, I'm going to want to add a grid, uniform grid panel into our overlay. And I'm going to wrap this up with a size box. I'm going to override this. So I'm going to want this to be, I guess, 300. Let's try that. And the height, let's try 800. I'm going to make this 500. Not 5,000, 500. There you go. So now we're going to have to work with the padding over here. Let's make this on the right side. So I'm going to have the right 50, 200. So basically right now I'm going to align this grid with the grid over here. So 200, the top, let's say a 50, another 200, that's too much, so 150. There you go. And I want this to be a little bit more, like 250. And I'm going to want to change the size over here. So the width, I'm going to want it to be like this. Over here to the top, I'm going to say 160. Like that. And I'm going to want the height to be 120 or 110. There you go. So it fits this grid correctly. And now we're going to get our item slots. And let's add them into our uniform grid panel. And you can see they fit the grid. So let's Control C and Control V a couple of them. And let's change the row and the column. So we're gonna have a problem over here. So we're going to want to have our item slots or the child of the uniform grid panels to snap over, so we do not want them to be like in the middle, and I'm not sure how to do that. Let me go into the uniform grid panel. I'm not sure if we want to do it like this. Actually, we do want, but the one problem is I think the grids are not the exact same size, so we're going to have to change over here the size of our image until they actually fit. So let me try and find this. So I said in the last video this is going to be a little bit boring, and it is, because now we just have to adjust these values. So I'm going to say that the Y is going to be 60 and it's going to be 60, and let's compile. Now they're too small, so let's try 62 by 62 and compile. And now I think they do have the correct size. So let's try this. Now let's keep duplicating this so we can actually see. And this is going to be on 6, sorry. There you go. So you can see that they fit the grid. Not that well, so I'm going to move or make the width 430, 429, and 25. So I want it to be exactly at the start. And over here I'm going to set up the top to be a little bit downwards. There you go. So now you can see that they are pretty much of the same size. I'm just going to go into the uniform grid panel and set up some slot padding of 2, I guess. I guess if we set up slot padding is going to like change the, so I'm gonna leave it at 0, and I do think they're still okay. I'm just going to pause the video because I'm probably boring you guys right now, so I'm just going to pause the video and you know, figure this out. You know, I'll get back when it's done. Okay guys, so I have this pretty much what I want it to be. It's not 100% perfect, but it's gonna be fine for now. So what I want to do now, before we actually start actually putting the exact items over in the inventory, not just its placeholders, I'm going to set up just a key over here on our player controller to open up the inventory. So I'm going to say E keyboard. So with the E key, I'm going to open or create the inventory. So I'm going to create a widget. This is going to be our inventory. The owning player is going to be ourselves. And I think I'm going to do a flip-flop because I want to toggle the inventory. And over here I'm just going to promote this to a variable, call it wb_inv, and I'm going to add it to the viewport. And then I'm going to set show mouse cursor to true, and I'm going to set the input mode to game and UI, the player controller being ourselves, the widget to focus is going to be our widget blueprint of the inventory, and I do not want the mouse cursor. And now when we toggle this back, I'm going to get the inventory. I'm going to remove from parent. Oh, sorry. And then I'm just going to not show the mouse cursor. And then I'm going to set input mode to game only. The play controller being self. So let's go into the game and try that out. So if we play, you've got the server, press E, you got our inventory. And now you can see that they're all over the place. Okay, I'm gonna have to change these on, but I'll change it later on. There's no point now during the video. Now you can toggle up the inventory. Now let's try to do that with the clients, and it works as well. There you go. So now let's go over our inventory, and now we're going to actually filter this on. So I'm going to remove them. Let's do that. I'm going to go into the graph. Basically, I'm going to make this a variable, and I'm going to call this the items container. And I want to do this on event struct. So first of all, I'm going to get the items container, and I'm going to clear the children. And then I am going to let's create a new variable which we're going to call the inventory that we want to display. This is going to be of the type item details, and it is going to be an array. Let's make this instance editable and expose on spawn. Now you're going to get it, do for each loop, and now there's the math to actually, you know, calculate on which grid and like column and the column or tile that we want to put. So I'm just going to pause the video because I don't know the math from the top of my head, but I'll just put it over here and then I'll explain step by step. Okay, so here we go. So this math over here, this is how we're going to put in on the correct row and column. So after I do the for each loop from the inventory, I'm going to create the widget, and each widget is going to be the item slot. And before I explain the rest, let's go back into our item slot, go into the graph, and we need to create a variable, call it details, make it of the type item details, because we need to pass on the information of each item to this widget so we can set the correct information. Now if I right click and refresh this node, I get the details which I just connect to the array element. And now we're just going to grab the items container, so our grid, we drag and do add child to uniform grid. You don't want the add child normal, you want the uniform grid. Then drag from the return value, set the row and set the column, and then just get the children count, retrieve 1. So this basically is going to get the children count, but because the indexes on programming start at 0 and not at 1, you need to subtract 1 from it. Then you're going to divide from the number of columns that you want. So just create a new variable, call it number of columns, and I'm going to set it to 5, so it's the number of columns that I want. And then you divide this minus 1 by the column, and then you connect that into the set row. And now this is the, so you want to get this operation basically is going to get the, well, if you are at the correct percentage of filling out a row, you want to change column, so that's why you want to get the children count and the number of columns, so you get information of the column to proceed to after you fill an entire row. So with this information, you can now set the items. So I'm going to go over I'm going to go over our player controller, because we need to set our inventory widget over here. You need to fill in this array, so I'm going to get the control pawn, and I'm going to cast to our master human. I'm going to convert this to a pure cast, and I'm just going to get the inventory. There you go. And that's it. So I'm going to I'm going to comment this. So open and close env, and over here on inventory, I haven't set up the logic for the stacking, so if you have like a stackable item, but I'll do that in the next video. I just want to do the basic inventory on this video. So now I think if we go over here, let me duplicate this item a bunch of times. So let's start over with the client. Let me go full screen. So I'm going to pick up 2 of them. So if I go into the inventory, nothing happens. Why is that? Okay, am I missing a step? So let me check. We are getting this information. We are creating the inventory. Over here, we are clearing the children. Okay, I'm not understanding what's wrong. Is it because I'm adding it to a server? Let me try this, play this on the server. Let's try this out. Let's go full screen, pick 2 of them up, like that. Go into the inventory and nothing appears. So I'm missing something. It's probably something stupid, but I need to figure it out. This is replicated. Let me see if it's a problem with the pickup. Let me just add an inventory item. Actually, let me add 2 of them over here on the character. Let's play and try and do this. There you go. So there you go. So it is a problem with adding the item. So we need to figure that out. So let me actually, over here, instead of doing this, I'm going to create a pin over here, and I'm going to remove this item 1. I'm on the pick item if valid on the master human. So instead of getting a reference from the blueprint, I'm just going to get the details of the item. So I'm going to go to the pickable item, and I'm going to get the details, and now add it directly. That's because the pickable item is not replicated, and we are trying to pass it on through the server. So that's probably because why it's not working. Let's try and do that now. Pick that up. What did I just do? Okay, some bug happened. Okay. Oh yeah, I know what it is. I forgot to connect the destroy actor. So let me do that. The target is going to be the pickable item. There you go. Try that again. Connect this up. Pick it up. And now you can see, oh no, that's because I have added the inventory. So it's still not working. So let me just debug this. So let's add the print string, and let's break the details over here and connect the name into the print string. So every time we pick an item up, test item, test item. So we are adding it correctly. The information is passing through as we want to. So we are adding the item. So let me get the inventory. Let me do a for each loop after. Let me break the item details. Let me print a string, because we are losing the information of the items somewhere through here. So yeah, there you go. So for some reason this add to the inventory is not working. And we can do the same thing if we get the inventory and we get the length. We can also print that string up. So it's 0, 0, 0. So for some reason this add is not working. So do we need, so let me go over into that server. I'm going to remove these, and I'm going to do the add operation on the client side, and then I'll just destroy the item over on that side. So over here, let's pick this up. Now you can see that it is working. Let's try that out with the client, and it does work. And let's try it with this guy. You have none, so let's pick the rest up, and now we have 3. Okay, so for some reason the add to array, it's not working on the server. I don't know if it's a bug or it's intended that way, but you know, we're gonna have to live this this way. So I'm gonna just change the name of this event to server destroy item, and I'm just gonna leave that on pick item. So yeah, okay. So yeah, I think that's it. So we can now pick up items and add them into our inventory. Now we have that little, you know, it's not in the correct place. So I'm gonna have to adjust that. That's because I'm using this widget over here set up to be 1280, and my screen is 1080. 13.9. Wait, what is the resolution of my screen? It's over here on the laptops, and I believe it's this one. No, it's not. It's 1080p. That's it. Okay. Yeah, my screen is 1080p. I need to go into monitors, televisions, 1080p. So this is the, I need to set up the correct dimensions over here, seeing by 1080p. So I'm gonna do that now between videos. But yeah, that's gonna be it. On the next video, we're going to work on adding stackable items into our inventory and stack them over here on our item slot. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry about the problems that appeared, but you know, this stuff happens during development. If you want the project file, check out Patreon. If you want to help me, I'll appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.